Well, Apple has sold more than 5 million iPhones since when it came out. And if you purchase one, you may be concerned about the cost of data plans. So our web doc, Peter Martin, is here with more on how you can get the best value from your providers. Thank you, Peter, for being with us. And I'm looking at this brochure. Seems a little confusing to figure out which one is the best one for me.
It is very confusing. I actually spent some time yesterday at the att&t store and the Verizon store just trying to get a handle on it, because they've got so many different plans, so many different options, and it really is quite confusing. But there is a big advantage of going with the shared data plan.
Okay, and tell us, what is the shared data plan?
Well, basically, in June of this year, Verizon came out with a shared plan, and of course att&t came out the following month with their plan. But what it basically does, it gives people the ability to have multiple devices on one plan. So if you have several phones in your household and a shared device like a tablet or something like that that uses data, instead of paying separately, you have one plan and everything's incorporated in there, and basically you get a volume discount. Is the best way to describe it.
Okay. When it lists the amount of data that you can buy, a gigabyte or 5 gigabytes, how do you know how much data you go through? I would have no idea how much data I go through.
That's one of the benefits of going to the actual store. You can stop at any store, and they can look at your plan and see what you've used typically, and they'll be able to say to you, here's what we recommend, and you can easily upgrade it. For example, previously, my wife and I both had smartphones, and we also had the iPad, and we were paying about close to $300 a month. When we switched over to the shared plan, because of the shared data, and when they looked at it, we actually were able to drop our bill down to about $180 a month for the whole package. So it is a considerable savings, especially if you have children and they have a phone.
And did you have to limit or ration your usage of any of those devices because of the new plan?
Not at all. Actually, it worked out to our advantage, because some of our devices, like the iPad, we don't do a lot with. We have it and we use it like when we travel. But the plan will actually tell you, you can pick the plan that you want, so you don't have to ration. And when you've got some devices you use more and some that you use less, it kind of like balances it out, which works real nice.
And if people are considering buying a tablet, how much extra, if you just have smartphones right now, about how much extra would you be adding onto your monthly bill to get a tablet?
Well, that's what's really neat about this. When I had a separate plan for my iPad, I was paying $30 a month. With the shared plan, it actually drops down to $10 a month. Because what they do is they charge you per device. So you get charged for every smartphone. And say you have your parents and you want to have a phone for your parents, but they want the old-fashioned flip phone or something that's not a smartphone, it's actually less for those phones as well. So you can incorporate those phones into your plan as well.
Now, if you go over your usage, do you really get hit hard?
Not any more than you did with the other plans. And what you can do is, when you see that going up and you see your usage going up and you're using more time, you can just upgrade to the next plan. And the plan levels actually with att&t is interesting. As you increase the amount of gigabytes, it actually lowers your price per device, which I thought was quite interesting.
Okay, so I guess best advice is go into either the Verizon location or the att&t and tell them, here's what I have, this is how much I use, and let's figure out the best plan.
Honestly, that's really the best thing, because it's very confusing. You look online, you can figure things out, but they can sit down with you. But the most important part is they look at your bill and they can say, okay, you typically use this much. We would recommend that you have this type of plan. And that way they're putting you in the right place and the right plan.
Can you monitor as you go through the month how much you're using?
Definitely. You can log in, you can go online, you can actually see how much your usage is and see where you're at. That's very easy to do. Plus, they actually have apps on the devices you can do that with as well.
That's pretty handy. Okay, thank you, Peter. And of course, our ABC7 web doc will be joining us every week with new and helpful technology tips. If you have a question for our web doc, just email him at wwsbwebdoc@mysuncoast.com. Thank you, Peter. And in other tech news, a new bike helmet sensor can detect the severity of a crash and call for help. Here's ABC's John Muller.